Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to Unaffiliated Sports Broadcast, or USB, where we cover Tooele County, Utah high school sports, focused at the moment on varsity football for Grantsville High School, Tooele High School, and Stansbury High School. I hope you enjoyed the previews and the recaps. Thank you for your support, but be sure to get out there and show that support to these athletes, as they're the ones who truly deserve it, and we're just trying to give them a little bit of light for whatever little bit of platform we can provide. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Now we're going to cover the Grantsville Cowboys versus the Ogden Tigers. The 8-2 Grantsville Cowboys and the 7-3 Ogden Tigers. Now, in terms of passing play calls, again, much like the Stansbury game, these two teams are very similar, okay? The passing play calls, Grantsville calls about 49% pass, 51% rush. Meanwhile, Ogden calls about 47% pass and 53% rush. The points for each team: Ogden has put up 310 points on the season, averaging 31 a game. And the Cowboys have put up 294 points on the season, averaging about 29 points a game. So pretty close there, pretty comparable. Points allowed: Ogden has allowed 190 points on the season, an average of 19. And Grantsville has allowed 196, also an average of 19, about 19 to 20 if you round up. I just try to keep it simple, okay? But passing yards for each team: Grantsville's got 1,916 yards through the air on the season for an average of 191 yards per game. And Ogden has 1,516 passing yards on the season for an average of 151 yards per game. Passing yards allowed: Ogden has allowed 1,496 yards through the air. And again, this was, I have to mention that this was based off of 7 games of stats, because not all the teams that they played put stats up. Okay, so in those 7 games that I had stats for, they average about 213 passing yards a game. For Grantsville, passing yards allowed is 1,372 for an average of, I must have done that wrong, because that should be over 10 games, should be about an average of 137 yards allowed. So I'm not sure where I messed that up. Maybe I had them backwards. I don't know. But either way, so they've allowed 1,372 passing yards on the season against that Grantsville defense, okay? Rushing yards for the Grantsville Cowboys: they've got 1,344 yards on the season for an average of 134 yards a game. Meanwhile, the Tigers have 1,718 yards on the ground for an average of 171 yards a game. The sacks for each team: the Ogden Tigers have 17, and the Cowboys have an impressive 26 sacks so far in the season. In terms of sacks allowed, Ogden has allowed 9 sacks over the 7 games that I had stats for, okay? And the Grantsville Cowboys has allowed a concerning 14 sacks allowed. And I just say concerning based off the fact that they're balanced offense in their play calling. They like to call an equal amount of passing and rushing plays, and sacks obviously don't help your passing game. So that's why I say concerning. That's an average of 1.5 sacks a game, which, I mean, isn't terrible. You know what I mean? Like, if you really break it down and you really think about it, a sack a game is not really that crazy. I think what it really boils down to with sacks is, when does it happen in the game? You know what I mean? Is it a critical third down or a critical 4th and short conversion type thing? That's where I think it matters. But from a stat line perspective, I guess all things considered, it's not terrible. There's a lot of plays in a game, so it is what it is. Interceptions for the Grantsville defense: they have 14 takeaways on the season. Good job to that secondary. And Ogden, equally impressive at 15 takeaways from their defense. So both those teams pretty comparable in that category. In terms of interceptions thrown, Grantsville has 7. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 8, but because I think there was a game where they only listed 1, but he had 2. And it might have been actually the last time these two teams played, actually. I can't remember. But Ogden has thrown 6 interceptions on the season. So pretty, again, much like the last game we covered, right, for, the Stansbury game. Very comparable stats, very close. 7-3 record for Ogden. One of those losses being to Grantsville, who's 8-2. You know, both these guys playing the same 3A North bracket. I mean, very comparable teams from the stat line perspective. And, you know, let's get into their players to watch, and then we'll kind of get into the other thing that I had. But, you know, your passing comparison from the quarterback position for the Cowboys, you got number 1, Dallin Van Vliet. He's a sophomore. He's a 125 for 261 on the season, 1,790 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's got 79 carries for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, to make things even more comparable, number 1 for them, Apodaca. I don't know if I said that right. He's a senior. He's a 110 for 173 on the year, 1,509 yards, 10 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2 carries for 3 yards, but those 2 carries translated to 2 touchdowns. So pretty comparable there. I mean, obviously Van Vliet's on the ball a little bit more. He's got 200 yards to show for it more, right? 280-ish. You know, I don't know if Ogden's quarterback was injured or something at some point and just didn't get I didn't look at that, but pretty comparable stats from the quarterback position. Your rushing attack for the Cowboys, you got number 32, Jaden Atkinson, the senior. He's got 155 carries on the year for 1,091 yards, 81 yards being his longest, 14 touchdowns, and 2 fumbles. So great year for that young man. Number 14 for the Tigers, Crowther, he's a junior. He's their leading rusher with 88 carries for 541 yards and 6 touchdowns. In your receiving category, your top receivers are number 5 for the Cowboys, Jackson Jensen. He's a junior. He's got 26 receptions on the year, 549 yards, 75 yards being his longest, and a touchdown. For Ogden, for some more comparable things, number 5 for them as well, Harvey, he's a sophomore. Excuse me, sorry. He's a sophomore. He's got 43 receptions on the year for 672 yards and 5 touchdowns. Did I mess up Jackson's? He should have 5 touchdowns as well, if I'm not mistaken. For whatever reason, I didn't put the number there. I'm pretty sure he has 5 on the year. So they're very equal, very equal. You know, Harvey's got more receptions, but he hasn't done that much more with them. So, you know, very interesting there. Good comparison. You know, Jensen's having a great year especially as that outside receiver. He's broke free quite a few times for some big catches down the field. He's definitely something that the defenses have to pay attention to, and that frees up a lot more things, I think, for your interior receivers. You know, your Fossens and your Fuentes. I don't know if Thornton's still injured or not, but he's kind of an outside and inside threat for them a little bit, especially in the red zone area. He's done very well there. So good job to those receivers. Good job to them. The defensive perspective, your total tackles leader for the Cowboys is number 12, Mason Butler, the senior. He's got 87 total tackles, 53 solo tackles, and 6 tackles for loss. Meanwhile, for Ogden, number 7, Wilson, he's a junior. He's got 40 total tackles, 40 solo. I don't know if that's accurate, and 2 tackles for loss. In terms of sack, your sack leader for the Cowboys is number 28, Talon Butler. He's also a senior. He's got 6.5 sacks on the season. Meanwhile, for Ogden, number 58, Abney, he's a senior. He's got 6 sacks on the season as well. So very comparable in the sack category in terms of their stat leaders. Excuse me. You know, but Grantsville definitely has more, sitting at 26. But those are your leaders, and so good job to those young men. In terms of interceptions, your interception leader for the Cowboys is number 8, Jordan Fossen. He's a junior. He's got 5 interceptions for a total of 136 yards returned. For Ogden, it's number 13, Van Norden, the senior. He's got 4 interceptions and 1 pass deflection. And for what it came down to in the last matchup, the field goal comparison, for Grantsville, you got number 4, Knickerbocker. He's a junior. He's 7 for 7 for field goals on the season, and 45 being his longest. 5 of those field goals came in their last matchup. For Ogden, number 12, Jensen, senior, he's 3 for 7 on the year, and there was no stat for his longest. So he's 3 for 7 for field goals. So those are your key position comparisons. All those players seem to be having a great year, very comparable. Outside of maybe the rushing, right? The rushing attack. Obviously, Jaden gets more of the carries for Grantsville. It looks like they try to do a few more creative things with Ogden, so that's probably affecting a little bit of it, right? But hey, very comparable. Very comparable. In their last meeting, and this is what I kind of wanted to go over, right? Because these two teams have played each other. There's some history there. Like I said, they're in the same 3A North region, right? So let's look at how the game went for them last time. In the last meeting, the Cowboys beat the Tigers 17-0. Now, in the passing attack, Ogden was at 50%. They were 10 for 20 and 84 yards. So nothing spectacular there. The Grantsville defense did a great job, keeping Harvey from getting those deep passes down the field, right? Because he's quick, but the Grantsville secondary is also quick, and that really disrupted that passing attack for the Tigers. Meanwhile, Grantsville in that game was 17 for 45. So Van Vliet really struggled in that one, sitting at 37% completion on that game, but he had 247 yards, all right? Neither team had a passing touchdown in that game. Now, Grantsville should have had one, but it was called back for penalties. So, neither team had a passing touchdown. The rushing attack was equally kind of unimpressive for both teams in that game, right? Neither one of them really was a standout, performance for either side of that coin, right? Like Grantsville and Ogden both struggled with it. So Grantsville carried it 29 times for 88 yards, and Ogden carried it 17 times for 75 yards. Neither team had a rushing touchdown. The defenses were doing a very good job against each other. The difference in the game was the interceptions, right? Well, it's not the difference, and I'll get to that in a minute, but it was one of the differences. The interceptions. Van Vliet threw one, and like I said, I feel like that might have been the game that I'm thinking of where he threw two, but it was only one listed. But either way, stat-wise, it was one. Meanwhile, Ogden threw 3 interceptions in that game. Both teams had 6 tackles for loss that were listed, and both teams also had 2 sacks that were listed. So the defenses were very, very comparable in that game, looking at the stat sheet, right? I mean, yes, the Tigers let up 247 yards passing, right? But they didn't let up any touchdowns. So how do you really look at that, right? I think what you look at that as is you look at it as Grantsville has a better opportunity to pass, assuming that, nothing's changed all that much. If you can get some of those completions in that Van Vliet wasn't able to get in the last one, because not all of them were based off of, good defensive play. Some of it was just bad placement, maybe a little overthrown, maybe a rushed pass, whatever, right? Like not everything was a fantastic defensive stop, right? So I think there's more of an opportunity for Grantsville in that game because the secondary for Grantsville has done a very good job not letting up insane passing games, right? I mean, there's been a couple games where they struggled, don't get me wrong, but they struggled against a good team. And I'm not saying that Ogden's not a good team. What I'm saying is when they met last time, it was pretty comparable, okay? And so I think the Grantsville's you're probably going to see Grantsville have a more pass-heavy offense than usual in this game. But I also feel like that they're going to want to push the emphasis on the ground to kind of control that category. Because, again, last time these two teams met, it wasn't a spectacular running attack for either team. And that's really, I think, something they're going to probably want to improve, right? But the real difference maker the last time they met was the field goal game, the kicking game. I mean, it was great. 45-yard longest field goal. I'm pretty sure that came in this game for number 4, Knickerbocker, because he was 5 for 5 in that game on field goals. And the Grantsville defense did a great job of not really letting Ogden get in a position where it was a suitable thing for them, and that controlled the game. So it really came down to field goals. It was a great performance by that young man. He did a phenomenal job, and the defense got a safety. That's where they ended up with 17, if I recall correctly. So again, very comparable. They did equally good on the defensive side of the ball for the most part, right? The difference there was the passing yards that Ogden led up. So I think looking at that, Van Vliet's got a lot more comfortable, I think, over the last couple games. He's settled in a little bit. Whether that was play calling or just him continuing to work or a mixture of the two, it doesn't really matter. He's done pretty good there. So I think there's more of an opportunity. I think we see a much better percentage of completion going in. I don't know that we're really going to see less play calls, though, because, again, Ogden seems to do a very good job against the run. They're only allowing about 84 yards rushing a game. And Grantsville's allowing 165 on average a game. Now, again, that 84 was based off of 7 games, okay? So take that with a grain of salt for Ogden, right? But for the stats that we do have, they're averaging 84 yards allowed on the ground in a game, and that's pretty impressive. So I think that's going to be problematic a little bit for Grantsville, but I also know if anybody can break one off for a big run, it's going to be Atkinson. I've seen him do it the last 2 years. So who knows? But I do think we'll still see a pretty comparable pass-heavy offense from the Cowboys, and I think you're just going to see the regular split from Ogden, to be honest. They really put a beating on Union in their playoff game. So they're coming in with a lot of what's the word I'm trying to think of? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's not motivation. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they're coming off a good win. All right, they're coming in with good feelings, right? And they're gonna want to rebound and bounce back from the loss that they suffered to Grantsville early in the season. So I think Grantsville needs to come out swinging, in my opinion. The defense, which I've been thoroughly impressed by all year long. Honestly, not even just impressed, kind of shocked. And not that I didn't think that they could do it, but shocked that they did do it, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like, I always feel like they can do a lot of things. I think I was more shocked at how they've been able to do it. And it's very, very impressive, and they deserve recognition because they have done a very good job all year long on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm looking for them to set the tone. I think they're going to have to. And they do a good job of doing that normally. But I think they're going to have to set the tone. They're going to have to hype up the team. They're going to have to hype up the crowd. They're going to have to get people into it, I think, so that offense can execute at a high level. Because, just calling a spade, sometimes the offense doesn't do a good job of setting the tone at the beginning of the game. So if I'm the Cowboys and I get the choice, I think I might kick. Let my defense get out there and kind of set the tone because, not trying to be too judgmental at all, right? I just think the defense does a better job of setting the tone early in the game. And I think if they can do that, that might motivate the troops on the other side, basically, you know what I mean? And get that offense operating the way that it's supposed to, you know what I mean? The way that they have, the way that they're very capable of doing. But, historically, I wouldn't say that I feel like the Grantsville offense does a good job of starting the game off, setting the tone. And I think in a game like this, where you got Ogden coming off a big win, they're looking for an upset over a team that held them to minimal yardage, minimal gain earlier in the season. I think you got to smack them in the mouth again. That's how I feel. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a great game. I'm very upset. Not upset. I wouldn't say I'm very upset, but I'm sad I'm going to miss it. I will be out of town this coming weekend, so I will not be there. So for everyone else, make sure you get your butts there. Go support this team. Also, if you don't want to come to Grantsville and you're listening to this, go support Stansbury, okay? It's all love, at least for my podcast and my broadcast. It's all love over here, right? So go at least see one of these two teams. Hey, in terms of any fans that might be listening, hey, I'm counting on you guys to keep me updated, man. I'm gonna do my best to watch the game. I'll be at a basic training graduation for my son, and so I'm gonna miss this one. But I'm gonna try to watch it while I'm there. Gonna try to watch it with him so he can see his brother play as well, and so I am interested to see. Yeah, I think it's gonna be very similar. Just two defensive dominant teams going against each other. I really think that's what it's going to be. I think the deal breaker is going to be, is Van Vliet going to have a better accuracy game in that, right? And is Grantsville going to avoid shooting themselves in the foot when they have the opportunity to score touchdowns? Because again, he didn't do bad. He had 247 yards. I mean, that's not shabby, you know what I mean? But he did throw the ball 45 times, and he was 37%, right? So I think if he improves that category dramatically, even if it's just, quick completions, letting the receiver run in space, I think you're going to see a completely different offensive game in that, if he's able to do that. Or, hey, maybe they're just like, no, we're going to run the ball down their throat. We're going to assert ourselves. Who knows? But I do think it'll still be more pass heavy in this game, just based off of, the Ogden's defense against the run. They seem to do a very good job against the run. So that game will be on Friday, November 1st at 6 p.m. Unless that one changes too. All right, because it was the Ogden game that they changed on me last week that I wasn't prepared for. I was trying to watch that, and I didn't end up actually seeing any of it till the second half because I was working on some other things. So as far as I know, it's supposed to be 6 p.m. Again, I won't be there. So please, if you guys get some cool videos or whatever, hey, let me know. Send them to me. I'll chop it up and share it, because that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So that's your playoff picture update for the Grantsville Cowboys. Good luck to them. Not so much to Ogden. No. But I'm hoping it's a good game. I really am. The biggest struggle I've had with doing this whole thing is I look at all these stats and I'm like, man, this is going to be a good game. Look how comparable they are. And then you watch them and you're like, wow, that was terrible. Last week I really thought Twilla was going to have more of an effect in that game, and they just kind of got steamrolled. So stats aren't everything, but it's the best that I got right now. So let's see what happens. Hopefully Grantsville comes out swinging, really dominates it, shows what they are, shows that they deserve to be 8-2. And hopefully Ogden shows that they deserve to be 7-3 and they make a competitive game, because I know the players probably don't want it to be too competitive, but as a fan, competitive games are awesome. So that is your playoff preview. All right, so please be sure to share this out with people. Support each other, locally, until we have to play each other. But until then, support each other as fans. Get out there, go support these young athletes. Okay, they deserve it. Get off your couch. It's a little cold, but it ain't gonna kill you. It's like $7. Go support them. Go have a good time. Get a hot dog or a hamburger or whatever they make. Okay, and go watch some great young athletes who've worked their butt off and are trying to get there. So go support them. Coaches, as always, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for, not taking it too personal when people like myself say things, right? Thank you for doing what you do, because what you do affects the future, and that's a very noble thing. So thank you for doing what you do. For the fans, get rowdy, get loud. Try not to be too judgmental. Not everything's a crisis. Sometimes we feel like it is, but not everything's a crisis. And the biggest thing that I want to emphasize is support them when they're down. Don't just cheer when they're winning. Get your butts up. Cheer for them when they're down. Help motivate them. Don't just sit there feeling like you wasted your time. It's embarrassing. All right? So cheer for them regardless. Keep that fighting spirit. And with that, have a great day, guys. Take care of yourselves. Good luck to Stansbury. Good luck to Grantsville. I look forward to doing this again next week because you guys win. All right. So don't make me have to start working on all the graphics for my team players of the year and all that already. Okay. So let's keep it going. Good luck to you guys. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. All right. Thank you for listening to Unaffiliated Sports Broadcast. You can follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Unaffiliated Sports Broadcast. The podcast is available on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music. So for all the updates, please follow the Instagram page as we post the updates there, as well as the stats for these amazing young athletes. I hope you enjoyed the show, and until next time, please take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you later.